Jane.
Hi, Vivi. How are you, honey?
I'm fine, thank you. And you?
Good. I'm good. It's been a rough couple of. It's been difficult here in the United States, as you know, and I am just listening. And I see you have a heart ring, and I want
Yeah.
to know about it because I have a lot of heart things, and I just wondered, where did you get that beautiful ring?
It's a 18th birthday gift from one of my dearest friends. So we decided to celebrate our 18th birthday together, and she gave it to me.
That's so sweet. And I feel like the reason we're speaking today is because what's in our hearts, what is happening in this country. And I know that your country has responded as well. You have responded as well. So I'm just asking you, how has this event in the United States affected you personally, and what have you seen in your country in response?
I remember that the afternoon when I've seen part of that video from which everything began. I haven't been able um, to watch the whole video. I just watched part of it, and I remember that I couldn't believe what I was reading and what I was watching. I just couldn't believe it was true. It was the real life. It wasn't just a movie or a fake. It was true. Um, I couldn't believe it, and suddenly, obviously, the video got viral, and many people shared it. And I talked about it with some of my friends, and we, well, in the following days, we made up some sit-ins or protests, pacific protests, all over the country as well, in support of what was going on in the United States. And I just I think that the spark that has been struck in the United States, I really hope that this, spark of um, asking equality, asking for rights, asking for justice. I hope that these requests will flame up all over the world and will bring some peace and justice and equality for all of us all over the world. Because, as I said, I can believe that in 2020 it's still necessary to protest and ask for rights, for equality for everyone. That's insane that we still have to ask for it. That that not all of the people all over the world already have equal rights. That's insane in 2020. So I really hope that what's began to happen in the United States after this tragedy, this murder, will flame up all over the world and will change our, system. That I think it become clear that it's wrong.
One of the biggest conversations, well, there's two movements that have been occurring since George Floyd's murder, and it was a murder. And it's very traumatizing to see another human being treating another human being like that. It is traumatizing. So I'm glad that you turned it off at a certain point. I'm also glad that other people have seen it. I did not watch it. I am I do what I do because I have an amazing imagination. And when I see things, they don't leave me. And so I am aware that I'm the kind of person who will feel that very, very deeply, and it will deeply, deeply affect me. And so I did not watch it. I have seen enough of it in my country. This happens beyond measure, beyond the, it's awful how often this has happened in our country and our history of violence. And as you said earlier in our conversation, many of the ancestors were brought here. They were slaves and they were brought to our country. And one of the conversations that is coming out of this is justice, and also remuneration, restitution for the Black community. We need to inundate and infiltrate all of the communities of color, for our brown-skinned countrymen and women, and we need to infuse these communities with money.
Yeah, and I think that Black people have been brought to the United States by European people.
They were not. They were stolen from their country.
Yeah, by European people. So what's going on? They've been brought to the United States by European people. So Europe and the other countries all over the world are not innocent in this whole thing.
That's right.
So I just want to make it very clear, we are not innocent. Italy is not innocent for so many reasons, at so many levels, which we'll talk about later. But that's true. In the United States, there's been slavery, but it's been brought there by European people, by us. So we are not innocent at all.
We're all responsible, and we're all responsible for each other. And this is beyond political lines. This is humanitarian. And I agree with you. And I am sorry that at 20, you still have to hear that things are not equal. You still have to see such a horrible thing occur with humanity. And my heart aches for you. I feel responsible as a citizen that a 20-year-old, my son, you have to watch the elders grapple and not have solved the problem, and not have come to a place where we wouldn't be talking about this. It is insane. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. We have to do things differently. And moving from the place where we have been with the pandemic, and then to have something like this occur, what I'm hoping and praying for, that because I believe I know there has been a rise in trauma because of people having to be sheltered in their homes. I know that. I also know that there is a concomitant or an equal measure of compassion and care for each other globally. So there is a sound, there is a voice, there is a consensus that we cannot sustain this kind of hatred, this kind of racism, this kind of superiority over one another. It isn't sustainable.
No.
And so to you and to all the 20-year-olds, as a 60-year-old, because that's part of why we're talking, I want to say I'm so sorry. And I am doing the best that I can in my community with my actions, with my words, with my ears, to listen to a better way, a more sustainable way. And we had protests as well in our little town of Great Barrington, and it was very moving. And my son was there, and he's incredibly frustrated, and he wants to shake people and rattle their cage. And as the elder, I say, yes, that is what has to happen, and educate yourself and listen, because no matter how upset you are and angry, you still have to be able to have a conversation where you attempt to have somebody hear your point of view.
Yeah.
You can yell and you can scream and you can be angry. I believe that is your right as a 20-year-old. I think
Yeah.
as we get older, we have to hold that space for you and the young people to be pissed off. And then we, as the elders, have to harness that energy for positive, for the good, for change. And that's what I'm hoping that I'll be able to do. You were talking to me a little bit about the conversations that you were having with the people that you were protesting with.
Yeah. We went, my boyfriend and I, and a friend of mine, went to this sit-in in my city, and we heard stories from people that live those on their skins. So the first question that a black girl, a black activist, asked us was, "Okay, I'm glad to see you all in this place, but where were you? Where were you before it? Where were you when people died at sea trying to reach Italian coasts? Where were you when we got discriminated on the buses and in schools? Where were you before all of that?" And this really, really, I was like, that's true. Even who have always fought for rights and for equal and for justice, equality and for justice. You talk with people, maybe sometimes you have a fight with those who don't think we are all equal. You have some argument, but then where are you really? And this really made me think a lot. And I think that there's so much that each of us can do. And as you know, I wasn't sure that doing, recording this conversation was a good idea, because I thought that it would be better for us to just listen and educate ourselves. And then I read this, as I was uh, saying, I read this post made by Bansky, that is a street artist I really appreciate. And he said, at first I thought I should just shut up and listen to black people about this issue. But why would I do that? It's not their problem, it's mine. People of color are being failed by the system, the white system, like a broken pipe flooding the apartment of the people living downstairs. This faulty system is making their life a misery, but it's not their job to fix it. They can't. No one will let them in the apartment upstairs. This is a white problem, and if white people don't fix it, someone will have to come upstairs and kick the door in. And I really, really, this made me think so much. And I finally realized that having this conversation was the right thing to do.
And important.
Yeah, and it was important to talk about it, and still listen and educate ourselves and protest and, you know, go to the sit-ins and listen to other people's stories and think about them. So um, during this sit-in, as I was said, and then I said so many other things that came to my mind. There's another girl that she was born here in Italy from foreigner parents that came from Morocco, and she said, "I don't know who I am. I don't know when I'm here. I don't. Italian people don't make me feel at home like I'm Italian, and when I go back to Morocco, I don't feel like from there as well because I'm not." And people from Morocco said me, "You look very Italian."
Mhm.
So I look not Italian for Italian people, and I look Italian for not Italian people. So I don't know who I am. And another girl, a black girl, said, uh, "Here, uh, people, if they want to insult me, to say bad things about me, say I'm a nigga, and when I go back, uh, to Africa, they said you are black people told me you are a filthy slaver.
Oh
You
my
are
God.
a colonizer because you live in Italy, and you are." For them, she's Italian because she has been studying in Italy her whole life, and she speaks Italian perfectly, even better than a lot of people born there.
In
Yeah,
Italy.
in
It's
Italy.
so
So,
and so the the translation of the United States is with our immigrants who the children who are brought over at a very young age for our African American population to be born and raised in America and not have the appropriate place at the table economically, emotionally, and spiritually, and to be preyed upon by a system that is continuing what was took a very long time to get rid of, which was something called Jim Crow in our country, is is a blight on the American soul. It is something that is it's displacing a person in the same way. And um, the closest thing that I can relate to with that is being a woman, because there is a displacement when it comes to being a woman as well, that is finally starting to again get more traction than it did in the 70s. And I think that it's just heart wrenching and heartbreaking. And I too am asking myself, what do I need to do apart from listen? And I'm seeing that my country, all the institutions are speaking up about what has happened and making a commitment to change. It remains to be seen if this will become another news story. But certainly, you and I are asking ourselves to make a commitment to not only listen, but to speak up.
yeah,
So I don't know what that's going to look like for me quite yet, but this is part of it. And making a commitment to each other to speak up, to inspire for me to inspire our son to educate himself and speak up and support him in speaking up. And as I told you earlier too, I have been working on a project that will bring an African American woman. Actually, she's not African American. She was born in the United States, and telling her story and bringing her to the American stage and taking her place in history. And I don't want to say her name because I want to get the right people part of the project and get her out there. An amazing woman who fought for her citizenship in the United States. She was born there, and she fought to be recognized as a citizen of the soil, because what is the phrase again?
You have the jus soli, which means rights of soil. So if you are born in America, you are American. While here in Italy, we have jus sanguinis, that is Latin, and means rights of blood. So even if you are born in Italy from foreign parents, you are not Italian. You have to ask and get to become a citizen, which I honestly and personally think it's insane. And things have to change, and politics have to make them change, and people have to ask for things to change.
We have to ask, we have to demand, and wherever we are, we participate in that change. I am looking to see how that will translate into my community. My community is very white where I live. But at this rally, I saw that it isn't really. We have a Black community that is aching to be heard and seen. And I'm there, and I want to participate in that. And in my industry, in the acting world, screen actors, the acting world, the blending, the lifting up, seeing the amazing artists. I just watched an amazing movie last night, Vivi, that you have to see if you haven't. It's called The Boy Who Could Harness the Wind. It's so beautiful, and it's so hopeful, and it's just a beautiful movie. So I just want to recommend to everybody to watch it. It's very, very moving. There's another movie that I love called The Power of One, and it's an older movie, and it is also very beautiful. And I think that one of the things that I say a lot to my friends and to young people is there's a story called by Dr. Seuss called Horton Hears a Who. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
So it's a children's book, and this elephant finds a dandelion, and he hears a voice coming from the dandelion. And this kangaroo, this woman, thinks he's insane, that he hears this, and everyone thinks he's insane. And they want to drop this dandelion into a vat of oil because they think he's insane. And he hears it, and he says to the voice, "Who are you?" And there's a whole world living in this little dandelion. And he says, "Make a noise, make a noise. You've got to have them hear you." And so all of the people that live in this dandelion start to make noise. But right, you think and finally he finds this little boy playing with a little bouncy ball, not making any noise. And he says, "You got to make noise." And he says, "Why?" He said, "Because every voice counts." And he says, "Well," he says, "No, you have to make a noise." And the boy goes, "Yop." And he says, "Louder." And he goes, "Yop." And he says, "Louder." And he finally makes this "Yop." And joins with all the voices, and the dandelions over the vat of oil. And all of a sudden, "We are here, we are here, we are here." And so I say to everybody, you have to yop. You have to make a noise.
Yeah.
However you can, you have to say, we are here, meaning we are here and we hear you. And we are committed to the change. And
Yeah, I agree.
my life is about storytelling. That's my superpower. So my contribution, as small as it may seem, is to encourage everyone, however it looks, take a deep breath, look around and yop. If you see something, say something.
Yeah.
Say this isn't right.
Yeah.
And that's where we are. We have to make
Yeah.
a noise.
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree.